And we are live. Welcome to episode 68 of Coaster Time. As always, I am your host, Carrick Gilgan, and the main focus for this episode will be looking at my most overrated and underrated coasters based on Vote Coasters. And I'll explain more of how I was able to do that once we get into those countdowns. But as far as I'm aware, this is like kind of a first ever kind for this sort of thing, using your own rankings and comparing it to Vote Coasters to see how a coaster is overrated or underrated. So that'll be fun to get into. And as always, we will also have other segments such as Q&A and Guess the Coaster. And speaking of which, that will actually lead us into our first Q&A, and I'll also give a brief bingo card update. But before I go into that, History and Leisure, hello. Lost power yesterday, and there's a heat wave coming next week. It's annoying because it's only your side of the greater apartment complex that's affected. That's obviously, that's hopefully they'll be able to sort that out. But obviously, that's pretty brutal. So best of luck in terms of getting through that next week, and hopefully either power will get restored or hopefully the heat wave maybe won't be as bad. But yeah, that obviously is less than ideal as we're getting right into the dead of summer here. And then I also see Frontier Coasters in the chat. Hello, how you doing? But anyways, so you can already insert your questions. Like I said, I'm just going to give a brief update on the bingo card. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably already be up to date on this. Basically, there's been a few changes since I last covered this in the last stream, because I usually only give updates in streams where I don't have a guest. So Palace Entertainment, you can see that box on the second far right box. That has been checked. Obviously, Palace Entertainment, their parks ended up getting sold to Hirschend, and that was confirmed, I think, fully pretty much a month ago in terms of it like actually going through. So obviously, that's a big domino that fell this year. And then as for Cedar Point, some updates within the last few months, or really last month. Top Thrill 2 did manage to reopen on opening day only for the last few hours, but it counts, and it's been, a bit up and down, but generally I would say pretty solid this season as far as uptime. I think probably a lot better than most people were expecting. I think it's still over 50% on the season, so hopefully it can improve off of that. So that is obviously something that's good to see. Like I said, though, a little up and down, but kind of to be expected. But Cedar Point also gave us some animals getting on the loose, which that's going to be the box there on, I believe, the second to bottom left there. Some alpacas got loose. So we've now had back-to-back seasons with Cedar Point having some issues keeping their animals in their enclosures. So I was able to get that bingo card filled out as well. But as I finish up that update, any questions you have, you can go straight into asking them. What do I think of the E-Lich Garden situation? So for those of you who are not up to date on what's recently happened with E-Lich Gardens, they were recently fully purchased by, I believe the company is called the Cronky Sports Entertainment, something like that. But basically, the Cronky family, he's a well-known sports owner. He owns a nearby Denver sports team, and he's also known for owning the Los Angeles Rams. They recently fully purchased E-Lich Gardens. They were under a co-ownership agreement co-ownership of the park with a company called, I think it was Revesco, something like that. And so now they have not only full control of E-Lich Gardens, but that redevelopment plan for the area. Premier Parks would likely still be the operator of the park. I don't imagine that this will affect that. But it's interesting because they said that in the article, they said, they're looking forward to keeping it around, and it's like a rite of passage. So they want to make it like better than ever. It was like something along those lines. I'm not fully sure I buy into that, but we'll see what happens. With that, I still imagine in the long term, E-Lich Gardens land is going to be redeveloped, but perhaps it is not going to be super soon. but that remains to be seen. I'm not really sure if this will change a whole lot in terms of the park's future, but it is certainly something to keep an eye on, I suppose. Civilian Satellite in the chat, I've been doing well, and you're listening while you do yard work, but might chime in to chat from time to time. Great to hear. I'm happy to help out with that. Let's see. What else? Charged, hello. Saw Civilian Satellite at SpringCon. Very nice. And yes, Quantum Accelerator. So I'm not fully up to date in terms of what's going on with that one there. I know there's like a few theories, but you're saying that it might be in danger of getting pushed back to 2026. I have not heard it being in like that much danger, because I'm guessing that there may be some an issue that has to be sorted out with it that's related to the other Intamin straddle coasters in the U.S. that they all closed, all the United Parks ones. We don't really know why still. So that being said, we are getting towards almost July at this point, so who knows? But I haven't heard anything in terms of it being delayed like that much. But it seems that whatever the issue is with the United Parks ones could very well be affecting this one as well. But we don't really know what is even going on there. All we know is, if you're not aware, the United Parks straddle coasters all closed around June 5th. Really no like given reason, and they haven't reopened since. The other ones from around the world are seemingly still operating as far as I can tell, because some people are wondering if like all of them shut. I saw that Juvelin was operating as of a few days ago, so I assume, and the other ones I haven't seen any like listed closures, so I'm gonna assume that's a US related issue, or at least related to the ones we have here for whatever reason. But I hope it doesn't get pushed back that far, and I doubt it. But obviously it is very obviously delayed at this point. Quantum Accelerator is. Yeah, Great Adventure, that's another one. I had honestly... we don't really know exactly what the coaster is, although, I mean, obviously the main speculation has been it's that Mach extreme spinning like tower coaster. At this point, yeah, it definitely feels like that is gonna be pushed back, but we'll have to kind of still wait and see on that. But considering all the progress we're seeing with, like, for example, the Over Texas dive coaster, it is certainly concerning to see a lack of progress on Great Adventures project. So let's see. What do I think about the new Busch Gardens Williamsburg survey? I'm trying to recall. I think so. There were like 5 options that I saw. I believe 3 of them were like theming based. It was like adding theming the Pantheon, adding theming to Apollo's Chariot, and I think Verbolten was the other one, if I'm correct. So those are kind of interesting options. I mean, of all of them, I'd love to see it on Pantheon, just because, I mean, that was kind of what was expected. But I guess any of the 3 of those would be cool to see. The simulator thing was really odd. It didn't really give the best description. I think it was like a story surrounding like a Irish village, and it was like some screen wraparound attraction. But I mean, you know, I think for Busch Gardens, like, an addition of any form of dark ride or indoor ride would be good, even though they have dark coaster. So that'd be something I'd be down for seeing, like just really any sort of indoor ride. The surf coaster is really interesting just because the theming of the trains, I imagine, would be quite a bit different. But I mean, I like Pipeline, so I would absolutely love to see some more surf coasters as well. We are going to likely see another one with Happy Valley Shanghai, with that news coming out recently. But obviously even more, I think would be great to see. So all of those seem like reasonable, like new options and new additions. So I'd love to see at least like one or two of those come to fruition. But they are surveys, so time will tell if anything comes out of them. So yeah. Um, Dollywood's indoor coaster. I think this is like one of the worst kept secrets in the in the industry. Although it's not fully confirmed yet, it's just kind of connecting a lot of dots. Um, but I mean, I've kept saying that this very much does seem like it's going to be the Mach powered invert, kind of like Arthur. Which I mean, I think for Dollywood, if that is what ends up being the case, I of course I haven't ridden one of those yet, but I mean, just considering like their audience, the level of storytelling and theming I've heard you can get out of that ride, and just how unique it's going to be compared to like really anything else for a lot of people who are visiting the park. I think that would be an awesome addition if it ends up being that Mach powered invert. So I think that's what's going to be going there, and if it does, I think it's going to be a fantastic attraction. So definitely looking forward to getting more information on what's going there likely in the coming months. Um, let's see. What else? Expert, welcome to the stream. Maybe a battle for Air VR ride replacement. As far as that surveyed like sort of simulator attraction. Yeah, they've lost obviously some attractions that filled that void with Battle for Air, and then also what's it called? Dark Castle. So anything to fill those voids is going to be good there. Let's see. Anything else? I think I've mostly caught up. I'm actually going to be right back. I need to turn my fan on. So I will. All right, we back. I just realized that that would probably not be a good thing to go through the stream without at this point. It's um, not as bad as other summers over here, but it is, it is summer, so it is warm. Um, but I think as far as questions go, I'll I guess leave it, like I'll give like another minute, and if that's it, I think I'll probably just go straight into the overrated coasters. Of course, there will also be a final Q&A, so if a question comes up, I'll be able to answer it then as well. So there is that. But I think that will. Looks like I do have another question actually. Do I think that Siren's Curse could be better than Alpine Fury? So I'm gonna doubt it. Both of those coasters look awesome, but for my preferences personally, I mean Alpine Fury, the pacing of that ride, some of the inversions on it look absolutely insane. The fact that you're going to be going out of the mountain is going to be, I think, one of those highlight moments for the ages. I think that looks like a phenomenal launch coaster. One of the absolute best, if not the absolute best, that Premier has done. Certainly from like a layout standpoint. Whereas Siren's Curse also looks awesome in its own right. I just think, for one, I don't know if the drop itself is actually going to be that good, because for one, it does kind of twist, but not like towards the beginning, like kind of middle of the drop. And the other thing is too, is because you're starting from that tilt position, it's probably going to be a different sensation than like a drop on, say, like a dive coaster or like really other coasters. And I'm not necessarily sure that will be for the better, but at least it'll be unique. The collection of elements and inversions on the coaster looks pretty good. Definitely looks like it's going to have some pretty nice airtime as well. But I think Alpine Fury is going to be more dynamic, more fast-paced overall. So I think I'm going to have a preference towards Alpine Fury, but both should be awesome. And I mean, I would be excited to check out either of them if I was going to do that in the near future. Do I think the Giga Dive will catch on at the other Six Flags parks? I think it could very well be an option. It is nice just considering outside circumstances with tariffs and whatnot that the coaster is like, you know, Claremont Steel is here in the U.S., so that is definitely something that will help in terms of, you know, maybe we see more of those. It probably will depend heavily on how the Over Texas one does, but I wouldn't be. I definitely could see that being added to a few other places. I'm just trying to think of parks though that it would go to. I think the obvious one of the obvious ones I could think of is Carowinds. I could totally see them jumping on this bandwagon. The only thing is I don't know necessarily that they would need to go for a Giga Dive because they have Fury 325 already. So I don't imagine they would try to build a coaster that's taller. But I think Carowinds would be like a nice spot for a Giga Dive. Or I guess just a dive in general. I guess it could be a Giga Dive. It doesn't have to be though, is I think what I'm trying to get at. I would not want to see one at Magic Mountain, but I could see the chain, thinking it's a good idea down the road. So there is that. That's another park I could see. Although honestly, outside of that, now that I think about it, I don't know necessarily that there's like a ton of parks that it's like, oh yeah, this park should get a Giga Dive. I guess you could maybe say over Georgia if Carowinds doesn't do it, even though they have Daredevil Dive. But I mean, I honestly don't think that is stopping you from getting a dive coaster. And Busch Gardens, Tampa is far enough away that I think you could do one, but I don't necessarily know if that's something they'd do. So maybe we see one other one in Six Flags chain, because now that I'm like kind of going through like the list of parks they could see getting one, it's actually not that big. So we'll say I could definitely see one more being built within the chain. Let's see. What are my predictions for Six Flags Entertainment Corporation's plans for 2027? Okay. My predictions are a Vekoma family launch for Fiesta Texas. I mean, I think a family launch of some sort seems to be the heavy rumor for Fiesta Texas. A B&M dive for Over Georgia to celebrate their 60th. I definitely could see something for Over Georgia just because during the calls they've definitely talked Over Georgia up. And a Vekoma tilt coaster for Carowinds. Okay, I see. That's interesting. Just because you would have two coasters that, although, I mean, Carowinds and Over Georgia are pretty far from each other, and they have similar coasters, so I don't think it matters that much either. But that is an interesting one. That is a good one. I think I'll pull up on RCDB. The other thing, too, is I think certain parks that might be getting stuff in 2026 could very well also be getting things in 2027. And I think there are going to be some things that get delayed. It seems pretty likely at this point. So just kind of going through the list of parks. Carowinds, they got the kitty thing this year. They're getting some water stuff next year. So I'm not sure that they're in line to get something in 2027. Looking at the other parks, I think actually Kings Island, I'm going to say whatever. I think their 2026 project ends up getting delayed and it goes to 2027. So let's throw them in there. So I think they're whatever that family attraction is going to be is going to be a 2027 edition. I will also throw in Great Adventures 2026 coaster. I think we'll see that get delayed to 2027. So I think that's something we will see. Fiesta Texas is definitely getting something in 2027. Actually, the thing I've heard is specifically like an Intamin like family launch coaster, which would be definitely very fascinating if they go down that route. So I'll just go with that just because that's I guess kind of a rumor / speculation going on right now. So you have those. Over Georgia, I think, is probably in line to get something. B&M Dive is a good shout. Yeah, honestly, let's go with that. I think kind of stealing yours, but I think that could fit in very well. Once again, Daredevil Dive doesn't really stop you from adding that, like at all. So you have those. I think those would probably be like your big additions. Outside of that, I could see them also throwing something at Over Texas, like, again, although they are getting a Giga Dive, so actually probably not. I think that's a big enough thing that they probably would hold off. I think that actually, yeah, that would probably be, there would probably be some other additions added elsewhere, but I think those are probably the main ones that would be focused on. So to recap, Kings Island, their ride gets, their 2026 edition gets delayed. Great Adventure, their 2026 coaster becomes a 2027 coaster. And then we got Fiesta Texas going with the Intamin family launch. Over Georgia, giving them the B&M Dive coaster. And I guess those would be like probably the heavy hitting additions that would be coming in the chain. There, like I said, there likely would be other ones as well, but I'm gonna go for those because those are pretty well in line. I'm also seeing if there's any other anniversaries that are worth noting, because you mentioned Over Georgia. I mean, LeGrand has a 60th, but like I'm not really gonna I'm not really expecting much there. I'll just put it that way. Yeah, those are like the only anniversaries of note that I see here, so I think that's going to be for now the ones I'll go with. So but that is a good question. And I think that'll wrap it up for now. So like I said, any other questions that come up, just hold on to those. We'll have a Q&A session later. But with that being said, we're going to get into my most overrated coasters based on Vote Coasters. I actually have some slides to kind of explain how I was able to work this out. I think I kind of alluded to this during the last stream that I was working on something like this. So you may be wondering, how did I figure out what are the most overrated coasters statistically based on Vote Coasters? And this is just kind of an explanation for it. I found the 191 coasters I had ridden that were on the 2024 Vote Coasters poll, which I'm using as like a consensus. I ranked them based on where they ranked amongst the coasters I had ridden, so I like put them in order, only counting those 191 I had ridden based on where they were slotted based on those the poll. And I came up with an equation, which was to put the Vote Coasters rank, subtract my rank, and that equals the spots above or below consensus. If it doesn't make as much sense, I actually have an example here. Just using like Steel Vengeance as an example, using like just small numbers here. If you look at it, I mean, this was actually the #1 coaster based on Vote Coasters last year overall, but out of all the ones I've ridden, it would have been 1. I have it as my 3rd overall coaster I have ridden, so you subtract that 1 minus 3, and I'm 2 spots lower on it compared to consensus, and you can kind of see that play out. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know in chat if you kind of have an understanding of what I did there before I move forward. But that's basically what I came up with to determine what are my most overrated or underrated coasters. So like I said, let me know in chat if that kind of makes sense at least, or makes complete sense. And then the way it's laid out, they're all going to be laid out with that table there. So basically you can kind of do this, like you can see how the math works there. But anyways, gonna make sense from Charged on PC. And then actually for the overrated ones, there actually ended up being more than 10 coasters because we had multiple like 2-way to 3-way ties. So a few of these that are less significant, I will kind of rip through. But I think we are good to go. So coming in at number 10A, this is a 3-way tie one, is Undertow at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. I'm going to go through this one pretty quick. My ride experiences on it. This is relatively, not really that great of a spinner. It has pretty heavy braking and little forces outside of the first drop and horseshoe turn. It does have nice views, but I have only gotten this with an on-balance car. So based on reviews I've seen from Captain Coaster and other things, the ride has been praised for its disorienting spinning, which if you get an off-balance car, that might be the experience you get. So that is probably just something I'm missing, but I am 29 spots lower, is where I'm at with it. Yes, so negative, I should have mentioned that. Negative is going to be overrated. That I am lower on those coasters compared to consensus, and underrated is going to be a positive number. So that's correct. And then, so that'll also be denotated by the red and green colors. But that's a great question there. So next we have Dragon Con at Port Aventura, which is also 29 spots below consensus. My thoughts here, I mean, this is a solid B&M looper. It's a fun ride. It has some unique quirks with like the amount of inversions it has. It has 8 of them. It has a nice straight drop. And the 0G roll, I haven't ridden Kumba, but obviously that roll on that ride is known for being elite, and I can say from riding Dragon Con that this one is has some absolutely insane whip. So that is definitely an elite element. But I'd say most of the inversions overall are like just pretty standard for B&M, and I think the ride lacks the overall raw power and whip of like the better B&M coasters, and it also does have like a slight rattle up points. But some other people really thought that this was, from what I could tell, like a really intense B&M coaster, which it is intense. I just think compared to some other ones I've ridden, it doesn't quite stack up. They also raved about the pacing. And then the inversions being very good and having the coaster having that old school B&M feel, which I would say it does have that. I am curious though, just because of where this is located. I imagine there's a lot of European enthusiasts who've ridden this who maybe have not ridden a lot of other, like, say, floorless coasters or like B&M sit downs, because there's not like a ton of them out in Europe. So I wonder if that like kind of inflates the Vote Coasters ranking. But regardless, it's a fun ride. It's just this is one that I was actually a little surprised to see that I was apparently a lot lower on it than others. And as you'll see with a lot of these rides that I may have on the overrated side, most of them are at least still like pretty fun, or like actually like legitimately good. I'm just like way lower on them than others. And that's definitely the case with Flight Deck at California's Great America, which is also 29 spots lower for me compared to consensus. This one's interesting in that I also think that, yeah, this is a nice old school B&M invert, has some very intense elements, fast paced. The elements it does have with the specifically 0G roll and final helix are incredible. The setting's awesome, being able to go over the water. But I would say the lack of the number of elements and there being similarly intense inverts out there that I've ridden that are longer or have better highlight elements is what keeps this one lower for me. And I think there's kind of a little lull in the layout following the 0G roll to the corkscrew, where it kind of lets its foot off the gas a little bit. So, and I actually think, looking at reviews, I saw a lot of people saying that the layout here is superior to the Batman clones. I heavily disagree with that. I am definitely a big like Batman clone truther. As far as their layouts go, I think those coasters get a lot of flack simply because, they've been cloned all over the place. And it's not everyone's thing. I mean, the Batman clones are ridiculously intense in terms of forces. But I would say I disagree with that statement that I saw quite a bit. And some people also said this is like one of the most consistently intense inverts, which, like I said, there's other ones I've written that I think are a little more so, but still definitely very good in that department. So I think probably those are a few of the things I disagree with, specifically the layout being superior to Batman clones and some other of the old school inverts. Because this is actually one of the lower inverts I have in my overall rankings, but it's still a B&M invert. I mean, all of them are good to great to incredible rides. So, and Flight Deck definitely fits the bill there. So, those are like the three-way tie for 10. And also you in chat obviously can give your thoughts on these rides if you agree or disagree with these, and also just what you think of like the vote coasters sort of rank as well. This one, number 9, I have a two-way tie here between Wild Eagle and the next coaster we'll see. Wild Eagle is an interesting coaster for me. It's a solid wing coaster. It has a great setting and views. The first drop is fantastic. The inversions are solid, but I don't really think any of them stand out that much. There are some that have some nice hang time, but the intensity is not that crazy. I know it's a wing coaster, but I'll kind of get to that in a bit. Because this coaster, it basically has like a floorless coaster layout almost, but it just kind of, I mean, it doesn't have the intensity of like a true floorless coaster. I also think if you're going to build a wing coaster, having a near miss is pretty important, and this coaster doesn't really have like one of those like near miss elements, which I think is a massive missed opportunity, though this is, one of the earlier wings, so you could potentially give it a pass on that. And then the layout after the final corkscrew just like completely dies in my opinion, so I think it ends on a very weak note. So I'd say those are my kind of gripes with Wild Eagle. But I also will say I have not ridden that at night. I've heard it gives great night rides, so that could also help. Others have said it is smooth, well paced, which, I mean, holding its speed, I'd say yes, but like I said, like kind of the ending of the layout, I didn't think was very good. First drop, I agree there that it's fantastic. The location's awesome. And like, yes, it is intense for a wing coaster, but it just kind of, like I said, for me, feels kind of like a weird ride in terms of like, I kind of don't really think it knows entirely what it wants to be, I guess, compared to some of the more, I would say, refined wing coasters out there. But it is unique, so people also noted it for that. So if you enjoy it based on that, I can certainly understand that one. And then the next one I have is Titan at Six Flags Over Texas. And my thoughts here will apply to another coaster that's coming up later, just without a few things. But for me personally, this is a very kind of unconventional but intense hyper that does have a great sense of speed up points. It definitely does lack in airtime. That is definitely one of its biggest weaknesses. The mid-course also does kill the pacing, but I've actually learned to enjoy it because, especially if you're towards the front, you do get some sideways hang time, which is kind of nice. But it still is, a pacing killer. But I mean, the rest of the ride is pretty intense, so it kind of makes sense why it has to slow the train down so much. And for me, this runs better than Goliath at Magic Mountain. The upward helix adds a lot and is my favorite element. And the second half is crazy intense, so I will definitely give it some praise there. Interestingly enough, I looked at the reviews on like Captain Coaster. A lot of reviews were praising the first drop. Honestly, as like, I mean, I guess it's like a long first drop, and if you're towards the back, you get like some floater, but I mean, it's pretty darn shallow. I mean, you do build up a lot of speed, I guess, but I don't really think the first drop is super noteworthy. So that was kind of interesting. High level of intensity, I definitely agree with that. But the first drop thing was really odd. I was surprised that there were a decent amount of reviews that actually praised that, which I'll just say I disagree with. But yeah, I think it's just the type of ride it is and the type of hyper it is. It's just not something I'm as big of a fan of. But I mean, if you are a big fan of I guess of rides, of like a ride like this that has like a lot of speed, that has some crazy positive G's, but does, I mean, it does have its weaknesses, which I think are probably bigger issues for me in terms, like I said, pacing killers and first drop just being so shallow and other things, and not necessarily being the most dynamic in terms of forces. But I mean, if you want a coaster with a lot of speed and some crazy positive G's, this definitely is a great one for that. And it's still a fun ride. Like I said, a lot of these coasters, I'm still gonna say that they're like actually like good rides. I'm just not as high as some other people are. So that's kind of where I land with Titan. At number 8, we got a 3-way tie. Cedar Creek Mine Ride, I'll just go through this one quick. I rode this in 2019, right around Coaster Mania. Other people who rode it around that time for the first time, I had also thought this was terrible. This is the worst mine train I've ridden. It tracked terribly, brutally rough transitions, really didn't have much forces, really bland, uneventful layout. It's slow. The only nice thing I can say about it is, I mean, well, for one, I guess it's a classic coaster, so you have that, and two, it does have a neat setting, but like I would rather just another ride take advantage of that. And some other people were saying that it's like, for what it is, it's fun, has decent helixes. The main thing I disagree with here, for at least based on my one ride, is that it's enjoyable for families. I would not put, if I was trying to introduce someone to coasters, I would not put them anywhere near this thing, personally. But granted, that was my one ride. Maybe it was just running especially bad. That's very possible around that time. Or I just got a bad ride on it. I don't really know. But I would not put anyone that is trying to get into coasters anywhere near this coaster, at least as for one of their first ones. So would definitely disagree with that assessment. Next, we're going to move on to Scream at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This is a coaster that I've mentioned that I am not the biggest fan of it, and so not really surprising it makes it here. It's a pretty mediocre B&M looper in my opinion. It does still have some decent elements, like specifically on paper. If you look at the 7 inversions, it has, but it really lacks the speed or pace to hit the elements like the other B&M loopers. So the elements aren't quite as intense, at least in my opinion. That 0G roll just, I mean, compared to other B&M 0G rolls, is pretty darn weak. From my own experience, it features a pretty noticeable rattle, and then of course, I mean, people do talk about the parking lot setting. I could look over that if, you know, it was like a pretty darn good B&M floorless otherwise, but it's not, so I will list it here. Because, I mean, Medusa at Discovery Kingdom, which I love, is also a parking lot coaster, but that ride's awesome, so, but it's worth noting here, just because. Others praise it for, you know, the layout, having good inversions. People do mention its strong pacing. And like, it is an intense coaster. I just, compared to other older B&M coasters, I think it's definitely on the lower side of it, just because of how it runs. So lower on Scream. And then Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is my 8C. My thoughts here, and this one I will mention out of the ones here, there's a few of these, and I'm like, if I got a certain ride on this, I definitely could see myself raising these coasters, and I think this is definitely one of them. But just go over my thoughts. As far as family-oriented coasters go, or family, like, thrill coasters go, this is definitely, like, a very good one. Has a very high level of theming, interesting queue, variety and experience from the different seating positions, from the motorbike to the sidecar. Solid sense of speed. Has some solid positive GSET points, but I didn't really think it did much as far as airtime goes. Despite multiple moments that, like, looking at the POV looked like they would deliver, I didn't personally get too much out of it on Hagrid's. And interestingly enough, so the motorbike, I would say, feels more open, and I think it's better for, like, the sense of speed, but I actually felt the positive G's more on my sidecar ride, so that was something of note. But I think a few things to note here. I only got 2 rides on this. My first ride, I won't go full spoilers, but the part where you're in the cave, there was kind of a delay there, so on my first ride, so things didn't exactly happen at the sort of pace or timing that it was supposed to there, so that may have soured my first experience a little bit. So there is that, and I was not able to get either a front row ride or a night ride, and I think either of those things would elevate this coaster a lot, because I think with the setting and the theming, a night ride especially would be fantastic. And then for that sensation of speed, I think a front row ride would also be great as well, and also for the unobstructed view as well. So I think those are things that could elevate this coaster a little bit in my rankings. Other people have said this is, you know, a world-class, if not the absolute greatest, like, family thrill coaster out there. I would not quite go there, but I can, you know, I can understand certainly why people say that. The launches are praised. The launches are fun. Shouldn't mention that, but it does have so many of them, so that's certainly unique. Ride has long duration, and the theming is said to be elite, is often praised as such. So, which to a certain degree, I can certainly agree with those. I just think in terms of this, I don't rank this amongst, like, you know, some of my absolute favorite coasters, or even like in that, like, kind of range where, like, top 25 is, like, you know, like, we're getting to, like, actual, I think for me personally, like, elite coaster territory, or at least borderline. I just do not see Hagrid's in that way. And I also do rank Hulk higher, so I will say that for sure. So I will definitely, I do have Hulk over Hagrid's. Rip Ride Rocket is #1 Universal coaster. I'm also a Rip Ride Rocket truther. I do have that above Hagrid's as well. You might see that later, actually, Rip Ride Rocket, but as far as the overrated coasters go and Hagrid's, this is where it lands. 7 is Goliath at Magic Mountain. I'm going to go through this one quick. Most of my thoughts of Titan pretty much apply here. Just take out the upward helix and it runs a bit worse. And the reviews are mostly the same, like, in terms of, like, the same things I mentioned. So I would honestly just say look at Titan. Yeah, pretty much my thoughts on Titan apply here. Just runs a little worse, and we'll just honestly move forward. 33 spots below consensus. And then this next one is our last any-way tie between coasters. This is another 3-way tie. Starting this off is going to be Great Bear at Hershey Park. This is my lowest ranked B&M invert. Now, I will say for this one, this is another one that could rise for me because I rode it in 2017, so it's been a long time. Only got one ride, and it was in the morning, so definitely wasn't running at its peak, so I will say that. But like I said, my lowest ranked B&M invert, it's still good and unique. It has that first helix, which is pretty intense. A solid drop coming off of it. It does have a very nice 0G roll. And then the corkscrew that it has kind of toward the end of the ride is pretty strong. But for me, I felt that there was a lot of kind of like empty space, like dead moments in between elements, which for like a 90s B&M invert is not necessarily the norm you would expect to see. It does have it does have like a unique utilization of terrain and setting, and that utilization of the terrain likely leads to those kind of moments, dead space. So, you know, it's just something that had to be done. So I don't really blame the layout design process for that. I mean, it was an interesting area and a lot of land to work with when they were building Great Bear. So they had to get pretty creative, but just as far as the ride experience goes, I think it does suffer. And I think it, because of that, does lack in that kind of consistent intensity and rapid fire pacing that I'm used to seeing in a lot of these other B&M inverts. So I will say, oh, and the ending too is weird in that most B&M inverts end on a very strong note, and Great Bear just, I mean, it does not have a very strong ending at all. So, yeah, I would say that's where I have gripes with it. And others have mentioned it does definitely have a unique invert layout. And some people still say that it is very intense. I've even seen some say that it is one of the more intense inverts, which, I mean, off my experience, I definitely am not there. And some have mentioned that while there are some dead spots, it does showcase its speed pretty well. Maybe if I got a ride later in the day, I would have agreed there, but I'm that's just not where I'm at. So that is Great Bear. Hagrid's is your number one. Well, there you go. I mean, and that's totally cool. I mean, there's a lot of aspects that it does well, and like I said, if I get better rides in better conditions, or like a night ride, I think it would rise my thoughts on it immensely. I think more rides will definitely help out my perception of the coaster, even though I don't think it would necessarily be number one territory. It is a very unique overall coaster experience and very ambitious. So I can certainly understand why you have it as your number one. But going back to this, Red Force at Ferrari Land comes in at 6B. And pretty much I only got one ride on this. This is another one where if I had ridden it in the front row, probably would have ranked higher. Unfortunately, they were assigning seats on my one ride on it, and I got a middle row ride, so that was not really possible. So I will mention that. But just my thoughts on this. It is a thrilling, like, just adrenaline rush of a launch coaster. The first launch is nice, but it does lack the power or sense of speed of, like, say, the hydraulic launches. I would say, in fact, I think Furious Baco's launch is, like, way better than this one. Though, like I said, maybe my mind would change from, well, maybe I don't think it would change, but I think my perception of the launch would be better if I got a front row ride on it. And also the launch itself was surprisingly rattly. Now, this is also where if I got multiple rides, it would have helped, because I think that's something I could have gotten used to. It's just I had not really heard of anyone saying the launch was rattly, so that surprised me when I rode it back in 2022. I will say, though, one of the good things that it does have is the speed it goes over the top hat is definitely faster than, like, the Strata coasters. So I'd say the top hat, the airtime you get on it is certainly better, and the drop is incredible because it doesn't do the spiral. It just kind of levels out to being straight. So I will say that part of Red Force is very good. I was just the launch, which is the main thing that, you know, I look for in these coasters, did not really live up to the hype, like, at all. Unfortunately. So, whereas others have said it is one of the best launches out there, which like I said, I don't agree with that, but once again, didn't get a front row ride. And maybe my expectations were a little off there, in terms of what I should have been expecting. The views are fantastic. That is true. That is a good point. That is something that was also mentioned, by others. That is a good point. The launch does sound cool. Yes, no, it does. For Red Force, for sure. Actually, my brother was saying that, like, he was actually, like, scared to ride it because of the way the launch sounded, and once he rode it, he was, like, kind of disappointed in the ride also. But no, it does have a very cool sounding launch, so I will give it that. And again, it's still a fun, still a great ride, because, I mean, you're still going that fast. it is still like a pretty good launch. I mean, like I said, that drop is fantastic off the top hat. So you definitely have some great aspects to Red Force, but I'm just, like I said, not quite as high as others. And then 6C, we got New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. So this is my lowest ranked RMC, and it's not really close. Basically, this is a fun RMC hybrid that lacks the strong airtime, pacing, and dynamism compared to the other RMCs out there. The second half is basically a souped up family coaster / mine train, as people have said over the years. I definitely agree with that assessment. As you still get some, like, solid floater airtime during that section, but it's just a very significant contrast to, compared to other RMCs, which I could also see as a reason for why people like it. Because it is a very unique RMC. I definitely will give the ride that, between that second half being, I guess, more floater airtime based, and then the overbanks. The coaster utilizing overbanks a lot more compared to, like, say, inversions. Definitely does make it unique. Also, the trains, which, look, I mean, I like the trains, but I also don't have a super... I don't really have much of an issue with the normal RMC trains, outside of just how long they take the load, as far as, like, just dispatches, because of how heavy they are. The trains, like, yes, they were more comfortable, but I don't think it made, like, a massive difference there. Others also say that it's, like, maybe more rewritable than the other RMC coasters, which I guess that's a fair point. A lot of people did praise this coaster for being a very different kind of experience compared to other RMCs. The first drop is very good. I will agree with that. So that is something that often gets brought up with New Texas Giant. It also was, like, the very first RMC coaster, so you kind of have to keep that in mind. Like, I definitely still, like, very much respect this coaster and what it meant for the industry and for RMC. Like, I don't want to take that away from the coaster. And as far as the first coaster goes, this is absolutely phenomenal. As far as, like, a manufacturer making a first coaster, this is, like, an incredible ride from that standpoint. It just goes to show, I think, how far RMC has, like, basically come from their first coaster, which was already a, like, really nice starting point. So, but like I said, just the lack of strong airtime, the pacing not being as good, second half being very repetitive, like floater, just not quite my thing. So, yeah, New Texas Giant hater, kinda. Definitely lower on it. It's still, like I said, I mean, it is in my top 70 overall coasters, so it is still a very good ride, very fun ride. And Civilian Satellite says, I remember when New Texas Giant first opened, and reviews almost universally said it was one of the best coasters out there. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't around as an enthusiast, basically. I hadn't become an enthusiast when this opened, but I was at least there kind of in the earlier days of it, when RMC was still relatively new. And this coaster was, like, praised as, like, one of the absolute best out there for a good while, so I definitely do remember that. I think that also may have played into a little bit of my disappointment, but with it, but still, like I said, fun ride. And then next we got Riddler Mindbender at Six Flags Over Georgia. So all the coasters from here, no more two-way ties or three-way ties. All of them are going to be like this. This one's actually, I think, pretty easy to explain why I'm lower on this, because I think a lot of people are still ranking this coaster based on how it rode pre-overhaul. For reference, I only ever rode Riddler Mindbender after it got its overhaul, so I cannot speak on the ride experience beforehand, but I think a lot of people are still ranking on it based on that experience beforehand, because they haven't ridden it since, or that's just how they want to rank it. So I think that is probably something that significantly explains this ranking discrepancy. I mean, the coaster it apparently used to give, like, really nice ejector pops and was, like, consistently intense. I did not find that with this ride. It was more of, like, kind of like a fun classic looping coaster with, like, great terrain usage. It does have some nice intensity, and it had like some small pops of air, but nothing too crazy. There are some rough sections with it, though. I will say, I think specifically that one helix definitely shuffles quite a bit, and the forces do definitely seem to have been neutered after the overhaul because of the trims and the shortened trains. So, and this is coming from someone, I rode Shockwave after this. I thought Shockwave was absolutely awesome, and it actually kind of makes me even more sad I wasn't able to ride this before it got redone. But I will say, I was actually talking with Jace about this the other day. I think the topic of best, like, first looping coasters, like, you know, if someone was to ride a looping coaster for the first time, or first upside down coaster, what would be some good ones? And I'd actually say that now, with the way this one rides, you could actually say this is a pretty good one. So I will give it that, and especially because this coaster does have that family height, like that, I think it's still 42 inches, that it probably is now, like, better served for being that, like, you know, first step up into inversions coaster than it probably was previously. But yeah, that's gonna do it for Riddler Mindbender. I'll answer the Over Texas question in a bit after I get through these. But my number 4 here is actually going to be Thunderbird at Holiday World. I was actually surprised how much I was lower on this. I knew I was to a certain degree. I did not realize it was to this degree. And that's even though this coaster actually, I elevated it from my 2022 rides compared to my 2023 rides, where I was able to get a night ride on it. I was able to get a ride on the right side of the train, which I personally enjoyed a decent bit more than my initial left side ride from 2022. But even still, clearly I am, like I said, a lot lower on this one. For me personally, Thunderbird, it's a really fun launch B&M wing coaster, has a nice first launch, nice sense of speed, and personally my favorite elements on this one is going to be the airtime hill, which, like I said, I think in that right seat, I was able to feel it more. And then the final elongated twist is a great way to end the ride and is a great near miss. So I do like that. It does have a nice setting as well. But I do think the layout does feature some dead spots. There are some weak elements, and some of the turnarounds just didn't really do too much for me. So I just think that, and I actually have Gatekeeper above Thunderbird as well, but that might change upon a reride. They're like neck and neck, so that's also something of note. But others have praised this coaster for its high level of pacing, great selection of inversions, good first launch, and it is intense compared to other wing coasters. I could certainly say that. So there is that, but I think those attributes are just much more amplified and praised by others compared to what you'll hear from me. And Civilian Satellite has, this one might be your first hard disagree. I'll also say, as far as being in the park, this is like a pretty easy, it's a great number 4 coaster to have. I will say, if your number 4 is Thunderbird, like, you have a great coaster lineup, because Thunderbird is still like a very fun coaster. A top 75 for me, so still, or at least top 75 amongst this group, but top 80 probably overall. I will say that, like, between this and 3 Woodies, I will definitely ride the 3 Woodies all day. And I definitely got a lot more rides on those compared to Thunderbird. Even though I still got, like, between my 2 visits, I definitely had a nice handful of rides on it. So that's going to be Thunderbird. My number 3 coaster, this is a massive jump in terms of the how far away I am on these coasters, is Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. Again, you're going to look at that, like, where it ranks and maybe think I, like, truly hate this ride. I still like this coaster, and I actually think this is one where if I did rewrite it all these years later, I think it would definitely rise in my rankings. I just think whenever I first rode this, I had kind of the wrong expectations for this coaster. But as is, classic hypercoaster, obviously, you know, super, at the time, innovative and definitely just monumental for the industry. Kickstarted the coaster wars, so it does have some incredibly strong but very brief airtime that I felt during my rides was painful due to just the way the lap bar is done pretty much, and probably also the strength of the airtime, to be fair. And I thought the first half was not like particularly strong compared to the second half, just with that large airtime hill not providing like too much in term. It had like some okay floor airtime, but it wasn't like anything too crazy. And then the helix section before you go into the run of hills being a little jank, but does also provide some very scenic views, so I definitely will not sell it short on that, because Magnum definitely does that very well. But other people have praised it for having like some of the greatest airtime out there, which I think I was just not expecting it to be as brief as it was, so I think that was kind of wrong expectations there. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just how much the airtime's praised. I did not think it lived up to that hype. That being said, I was talking about Shockwave, which I rode years later, and that also kind of has some brief ejector pops that I would say is probably the closest thing I would compare to Magnum, and I liked it a lot more on Shockwave, just because that type of airtime is, after riding a lot more coasters, just is not really something you see that much. So I think now, like I said, if I re-rode Magnum, I would appreciate the airtime it does have in the style of it a lot more. So I think it would rise. I still don't think I would be as high on it as the consensus here, but that's going to do it for Magnum XL200. I did write in the Magic seat, so I will mention that. Only got 2 rides, though, on it, so more rides as well probably would help. My number 2 here is going to be Flight of Fear at Kings Island. This is the first coaster we have gotten up to this point that I would almost like borderline say is like bad. I wouldn't quite go that far, but I mean, it is not great. Let's just put it that way. My one ride, I got this in 2022. Just brutally shaky and rough coaster, at least at points. That is indoors and in the dark, making bracing impossible. That I think is just, I mean, not being able to brace for rough elements coming up, that's like a pretty big like thing that I don't like. But there are still some positive attributes of this ride. I think the first launch is nice. The theming and the queue is cool, and the atmosphere of it is cool. I'll give it that. The inversions it does have are intense. Some solid turns also that have some nice positive G's, but the problem is it's just the way this ride tracks, the roughness, it hurts the experience a lot. Also, mid-course trim kills the pacing, but I mean, with this kind of coaster, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. And this is the only Spaghetti Bowl I've ridden, so I can't speak on the other ones. I hope to ride other ones that are like just a lot better than Flight of Fear, because it just legitimately was not like really all that good. I'd still say it's like basically ends up being like meh as an overall experience, but I mean, it could have been a lot better. Just if it tracked better, I think is the biggest thing. Also, thank goodness this thing doesn't have over-the-shoulder restraints, because if it did, then we would legitimately be talking about like a horrendous coaster. I will say that. But others have praised it for launch, the great theming, fun in the dark, which on paper, yes, but because you can't brace for the rough elements, not entirely. So I think I just not being able to brace for those elements is because of how it tracks is probably this coaster's the thing that like is its biggest downfall, which is unfortunate. This is a ride I really wanted to. I went into thinking I was going to like it quite a bit, and it did not end up being that way. So we have that, and we'll move on to my number one, which this one is going to be Valraven at Cedar Point, 65 spots below consensus. This one is definitely, I got a really bad ride on this, but even then, I still think I'd be a lot lower if I got a good ride on it, but we'll see whenever I'm going to get a rewrite on it. But yeah, only one ride. The ride operator decided to staple me as hard as they could, which I'm not, like, to a crazy degree, which with those vest restraints, which I haven't really had an issue on most of the other B&M coasters, it was just in this specific instance, I just got stapled to where it was like hard to breathe, and so that made the ride a lot less enjoyable. As far as the elements, the really only two that stood out that much were like the first drop. I mean, it's gonna be pretty nice, but like I said, just being stapled that far in, it was not quite as enjoyable for me. And then that 0G roll toward the end of the ride was actually pretty nice. Had some pretty nice hang time and weird profiling, so that was pretty cool. Otherwise, I didn't really think the rest of the layout was all that interesting. And the pacing obviously is, as with dive coasters with like a mid-course, the pacing isn't going to be anything too great, which is something that I at least value a decent bit. So you have that, but other people praise this for the first drop and then the second drop as well, along with the inversions, like all of them being like pretty good, ride being smooth, having good hang time, and just being a fun overall ride. This is just very much just the kind of coaster and layout it is, not my cup of tea. And then on top of that, I just got brutally stapled on this one, so it's going to be number one for this one. And then History and Leisure says that you do feel that Valraven is mid, has like no theming, but the Easter egg is a nice touch to aesthetics. Yeah, you've probably heard me at this point mention it, but like throughout the channel, and definitely you see it here now, but not the biggest fan of Valraven. That is for sure. But that'll bring us to our next segment, which is going to be our Guess the Coaster game. So I'm going to do, we'll go for 6 rounds for now. And basically how this is going to work is, I mean, if you've played this game, you already know, but I'm going to get a coaster on RCDB that you will try to guess. You will ask yes or no questions in the chat to try to guess it. You have unlimited attempts to do so. First person to guess the coaster gets a point, and the winner will be decided by who guesses the most coasters, and in a tiebreaker, the one who got the most recent coaster will be the winner. So that is how this is going to go. And I am still trying to get my first coaster, so don't quite ask your questions yet. Alrighty, I do have my first coaster, so guess away in the chat, and we will go from there. So, I think B&M should come out with a family dive coaster. It would look so cute. That would be something. I would be that would be a very interesting ride to see what that looks like. Civilian Satellite asks if this coaster is blue. It does feature blue support, so I will give you that. Blue supports on this one. It does not feature a launch, and it is not Bisbee's Spiral Airship. So far we have blue supports, which doesn't really give you a whole lot, but at least I guess it's something. So other questions. Oh, also Connectspert, I saw the super chat earlier. Appreciate the super chat there. So wanted to make sure I got back to that because I saw that earlier. Let's see. Is it American themed? Not like, no, I wouldn't say like Not really. Like, it's not like a American theme. I wouldn't say. I guess you could kind of argue it, but it's not like blatantly like an American theme, I suppose. It's not a European coaster, and it is not Ghost Rider. So, still not much to go off of. You basically have that it has blue supports. It is not Freedom Flyer, because that is that definitely feels like an American themed coaster. It is in the U.S. It is not Patriot. It does not have a Western theme. Definitely not. So, so far we have U.S. coaster with blue supports, which do with what you will with that. It is not at a Legacy Cedar Fair park. However, it is east of the Mississippi River. So you do have that. Is it in the New England region? No, I do not believe this is considered part of the New England region, so I'm going to say it is not. It's not a boardwalk theme, so I can rule that one out. But it is at a Six Flags park. So we do have a Six Flags coaster and a Legacy Six Flags at that. This has more than 6 cars, so the trains do have more than 6 cars. It is not Fahrenheit. It is not inverted. It is not Wild One. So let's see. So far we have Six Flags coaster east of the Mississippi, has more than 6 car trains, and has blue supports. I think that's what we have. And it is not wooden, so it is a steel coaster. So there is that as well. It is not Racer. Is it scheduled to close at the end of the season, like permanently? No, this one is not. Not Banshee. So you can rule out Six Flags America coasters. Pretty much with that. So not Banshee. Once again, so we have Legacy Six Flags coaster east of the Mississippi River. Has blue supports. More than 6 car trains. And this coaster is indeed tall, is over 100 feet tall. So yes, this coaster is over 100 feet tall. So there's that as well. It is not Steamin' Demon, not Nitro, not Mr. Freeze. So none of those. It is in the Northeast, so we do have a Northeast Six Flags coaster with blue supports, over 100 feet tall. Not Batman of any sort. It is not any of the Superman Ultimate Flight coasters. It is not Wicked Twister. And it is not at Great Adventure. I will say History and Leisure was kind of on the right track. It is not Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England, but it is at Six Flags Darien Lake. It is not Goliath. So far, we have a coaster at Six Flags Darien Lake over 100 feet tall with blue supports. Probably should come in pretty quick here, I imagine. It is not Viper. It is not Mind Eraser. Well, it, I'm gonna have to figure out how to split this. So, Charged on PC did say Superman. It doesn't go by Superman. It's just Right of Steel, but I get what you mean. But Civilian Satellite also got it. So I will like give you both a point, I guess. I think that's fair. Because I guess at one point it was Superman Right of Steel. So I think I'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that. So both Charged on PC, or Charged and Civilian Satellite are on the board. Oh, you said Riot of Steel first on your screen. On mine, it came up. On mine, Civilian Satellite came up first. So I'm gonna go off that. So both of you will get a point though, because Superman. I mean that's fair enough. So we'll do that for this one. All right, I will get my next coaster. And alrighty, I have it. Guess away in the chat. Yeah, Force of Habit because of Six Flags America. That's totally fair. This coaster, you ask if it's yellow. It does have yellow rails specifically. It does have yellow rails. And it is in the Six Flags, like the current Six Flags chain, yes. There is that. But it is I'll just say it's at a Legacy Cedar Fair park, just so we avoid confusion there. This is not a it's not at a US park. So it is a coaster with yellow rails in the current Six Flags chain, but outside the US, not Loch Ness Monster. It is actually not over 100 feet tall, so it is under 100 feet tall. Not Dominator, not Goliath at La Ronde. It's not Batman themed. It's not Behemoth. But Charged got it. It is Dragonfire at Canada's Wonderland. Is the correct answer. So Charged has a second point. And we will go on to the next coaster. That was a good get there. So, alright, I have my next coaster. So guess away. This coaster is not brown. It is in the US though, so we do have another US coaster. It is... yes, it is part of the current Six Flags chain, Legacy Cedar Fair Park. I mentioned it's in the US, so... let's see, it is... Yes, it is over 100 feet tall. It does not invert, so no inversions. Not at a Hershend or Palace Park. I think so. We have it. It's in the U.S. and it's at a current Six Flags, but at a Legacy Cedar Fair Park. East of the Mississippi, yes, it is. There is not an animal in the name. It is not a B&M Hyper. It is not green. And it is not Pantherian. So, still definitely have some clues to sort out. You saw a mind blower in the thumbnail. Actually, so it is an underrated coaster. It just didn't quite make the top 10 list. Same thing with Hang Time as an overrated. Just because I don't want to include coasters that are going to be in the list, because then it'd be spoiling like 10% of the list. But Mind Blower is one I do have as an underrated coaster, at least compared to consensus. So I'll mention that. let's see. Is it a B&M? We're playing the Guess the Coaster, by the way, so if you want to hop in, that's what we're doing. It is not a B&M coaster, not Flight of Fear, not an Intamin, not DC themed, not wooden. The name is, I guess it is 2 words, based on how it's written here. So I guess I will say that. So far we have U.S. coaster over 100 feet tall, within the Six Flags chain, but it's a Legacy Cedar Fair park. It's east of the Mississippi River. I think that's what we got so far. Oh yeah, and two words. Backlot stunt coaster. No, it's not Kitty Hawk. It is launched, so it does have a launch. That is accurate. So this is a launch coaster. Or, sorry, did I say below? It's above 100 feet. If I said below, that was an accident. It is over 100 feet tall. Did I answer if it was wooden? It is a steel coaster, although it's launched. So I think that at this point has got to be expected. This is not a clone. And History and Leisure got it. It is Hypersonic XLC. So History and Leisure is on the board as we head into round 4. Like I said, 6 in total. It's still anyone's game at this point. So I will get the next coaster. That is funny. I'm not going to do it because we got it earlier, but I got Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America. A little too similar to Ride of Steel from earlier, so not going that route. But I do have my next coaster, so guess away. I don't know if I'll just go off of where History and Leisure was. This coaster is above the Carolinas, but it is not at a Legacy Six Flags park or in the Six Flags chain currently. It is in the U.S., so we do have a U.S. coaster above the Carolinas, not in Japan. It's not Superman Six Flags New England Truther. It is not that one, just for reference. It is not themed to an IP. And it is under 150 feet tall. So, yes, it is under 150 feet. It is at a Herschend park. So, this is a Herschend coaster that is in the U.S., above the Carolinas. Not Dragon at Marineland, or Dragon Mountain at Marineland. Rest in peace. Not a family coaster. So, it's not at Dollywood. It is not at Kennywood. It is not at Silver Dollar City. And it does not have any inversions. It is not Skyrocket. So far, Herschend coaster does not have inversions. Above the Carolinas. Under 150 feet. Not a family coaster. This was a Palace Park, so yes, it was one that was recently acquired by Herschend, not Idlewild. It is a wooden coaster. It's not Idlewild's Wild Mouse. Connexpert got it first on my screen, but it was very close between Connexpert and Civilian Satellite. Boulder Dash is the correct answer, so Connexpert will be on the board. And that'll bring us into round 5, which still means at this point, it's still anyone's game. You could get 2 in a row here and win, pretty much. And let's see. It's taking me a little bit to get this one. Okay. Got the next one. This one will be, I think, trickier than the other ones. So we'll give you a heads up there. But guess away. This coaster is not in Finland, but it is at a chain park. But it is not in the US, so we are, this is a non-US coaster, and it is in Europe. So we do have a European coaster at a chain park, so that is where we are at. Not Soaring with Dragon. So we'll see who's able to get this one. It does not have a launch, so this is not a launch coaster. It is not from a US manufacturer, so not an American manufacturer. It is not from Mock Rides. It is not a steel coaster, so it is a wooden coaster that is from a European manufacturer, so that might be helpful. It is not a family coaster, or at least it is not. It is not Loop Guru. It is in the manufacturer's home country. Yes, it is. It is not Storm Coaster nor Thunder Coaster at Tusenfried. Or Tusenfried. Charged got it. It is, wow, really close between Charged and History and Leisure, but Charged got it first on my screen. Robin Hood at Willoughby Holland, the defunct Vekoma wooden coaster, is the correct answer. This, of course, became Untamed. This round actually went quicker than expected, so congrats there. And so with that, going into the 6th round, Charged has won. So early congratulations, but we'll do one more round. And alrighty, I have my next one. So guess away. Let's see. Gotta head out now. Great. Thanks for checking out the stream as always, Vince, and best of luck with all your stuff, and good to see you around here. This coaster is at an American park, but it is not in New York. Trying to get the thing here. There we go. There's the winner banner, just so I have that ready. It is not defunct, and it's not in Europe or Asia. So we so far have that it's at a US park, but it's not in New York. But it is at a chain park. So it is not from 1902. It is closer. Is it closer to Fresno or New York City? It is closer to Fresno. I don't know if that technically breaks the rule of the questions, but whatever, it works. Not necessarily a yes or no question, but we'll take it. SeaWorld. It is not at a SeaWorld park or at a United Parks and Resorts. It's not there. So far we have a US, it's at a US park, and it's closer to Fresno than New York City. And it is in California, so that will probably be a much more significant help. So we do have a California coaster, and it is at a Six Flags park. So, California coaster at a Six Flags park, not at Elitch Gardens, not in Nevada. Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, it is not Railblazer, but it is from an American manufacturer. So, there is that, and it is over 100 feet tall. It is not Tatsu. It is not in the Bay Area. It is not Revolution. So just to recap, oh, and not in Gilroy. Not Wooden. So just to recap, Steel Six Flags coaster in California that's not in the Bay Area from an American manufacturer that is over 100 feet tall. It is not Wooden, so it is a steel coaster as well. Not Ghost Rider, not Giant Dipper at Belmont, not a Disney coaster, not a Universal. Six Flags was confirmed as a chain already. It is not X2, not Wonder Woman, not Viper, not Twisted Colossus, none of those. It is not Joker, not Apocalypse. So, still has yet to come up. It is not West Coast Racers. So, just to recap again, California coaster, American from an American manufacturer, Six Flags chain, not in the Bay Area, over 100 feet tall, and is steel. Not from Arrow, not Magic Flyer, not Superman Escape from Krypton. Yes, it is at a Legacy Six Flags park, which basically means it's at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and History and Leisure did get it correct. It is full throttle at Six Flags Magic Mountain. So that'll be another point for History and Leisure. But with that being said, our winner is going to be for this Guess the Coaster Charged. So congratulations. And we'll move on to the second part of the Vote Coasters countdown, which is my top 10 underrated coasters based on Vote Coasters. I explained how this worked earlier, but just in case I need to again, 191 coasters I had written, I found them on Vote Coasters and ranked them based on where they ranked amongst how Vote Coasters ranked them based on the coasters I had written, and I came up with an equation, the Vote Coasters rank, subtracting my rank from that, and that equals the spots above or below consensus, and because we're in the underrated, it's going to be a positive number, and so this is going to be your example here. The Vote Coasters rank has Voyage listed as their number 3 overall coaster. It's my number 1. You subtract that 3 minus 1, and that is 2 spots above consensus, or plus 2 spots against consensus, as it's listed here. So that's just kind of an example, and we'll go straight into this countdown, starting with, actually I do have an honorable mention /11 here, with Mystery Mine at Dollywood. The reason is one of the coasters that made the top 10 is going to be going defunct, so I figured I might as well just throw another one in here. So Mystery Mine is going to be that number 11 here. So Mystery Mine was actually a coaster that very much impressed me. It's a neat Eurofighter with really good indoor theming and atmosphere. I love the audio as well, how that's done, and the fire effect on the final drop is fantastic. So I think from a theming standpoint, they knocked it out of the park. The outdoor drops is great. And yes, the middle section, you know, it just kind of meanders. I will admit that definitely is a weak point for the ride. Not necessarily the strongest portion of like any coaster. However, I think the ride does make up for it with an amazing final sequence, with the twisted drop that obviously is followed by that fire effect. That then leads into a hardline roll that has incredible hang time, along with that dive loop that also, because you go upside down into it like so early, also provides incredible hang time. I think that's actually underratedly like an absolutely incredible finale sequence. So Um, that is going to be just what I like about it. Also, I did not find the coaster particularly uncomfortable or overly rough like some other people. In fact, we actually took my mom on this because it was a family trip. Initially, I wasn't going to because I figured, oh, this coaster is going to be too rough. But after riding it, we felt that it was fine, and she had no problem with it. So maybe we just rode it on a really good day, and it was fine. But I didn't really think it was much of an issue. It wasn't like perfectly smooth or anything, but I didn't get like head banging or anything like that. So not really any comfort issues. Whereas most people who've ridden this, they say they get head banging, that it's very rough. Middle section is obviously criticized, which to be fair, I mean, yeah, that's fair. And some say the ride is disappointing compared to how it looks or the theming you see off ride. I guess basically my biggest difference is I really value the theming a lot. I think the finale sequence is incredible, and I don't really have an issue with the roughness. So there is that. So it would be top 10 once coaster that, I mean, kind of got spoiled already, but that I'll talk about ends up closing. So there you go. Next, we have our true top 10, and this is one of those ones where I think I'm off on this because of some of the changes that happened, and I think this coaster is prime for regression when I rewrite it, and this is Comet at Hershey Park. So for reference, I rode this, got my only rides on this in 2017, when it had buzz bars, when it was like still running well, didn't have the newer trains, and I guess just years of I guess compared to then, I suppose, because I've heard it's running a little rougher now. But in my experience, this was a fun classic PTC wooden coaster. Had some great airtime. Like I said, a lot of that was thanks to the buzz bars at the time, and a great setting that goes up against the other coasters. You get great views of Sky Rush along with the other attractions in the hollow section. And I thought it was quite smooth and ran very well for its age. But as I said, since I last rode it, they have added like traditional PTC lap bars, so that's going to potentially decrease the quality of airtime. And allegedly, it is now rougher now for whatever reason. I'm not sure if that's related to the trains or if it's just gotten rougher, but that's something I've heard. And then also people do mention the coaster does have some dead spots that bother them, which I'm a little less harsh on it because it is such an old ride, but I can certainly see that, being something you can criticize it for. So this one, probably one that will change. I will probably be a lot closer to consensus once I rewrite it. So that one I will admit, there's good reason why there's a big discrepancy there. So there is that. And then we'll move on to number 9, which is Electric Eel at SeaWorld San Diego. I mean, Skyrocket 2s I'm just higher on in general. And this one, I think the biggest thing is I think people dislike the ones with comfort collars because it's an issue for them. I got multiple rides on Electric Eel. I didn't have any issue with my neck banging into the comfort collars like I have that issue on like West Coast Racers. Wasn't really an issue here. It is still a pain to get in and out of the train, and it's more so on this coaster compared to the ones without the comfort collars, but on ride I didn't really find it to be an issue. I actually prefer this one to Ultimate Flight because it does have the extra back car that does have that insane like main twisted drop. But I mean, Skyrocket 2s, I enjoy their fun swing launch sequence. The insane airtime you get over the top is absolutely incredible. Also, the Heartline roll, the hang time you get on that is insane. And then you have the disorienting non-inverting loop as well. I think it's just a lot of very dynamic ride, and you get a lot of different forces in a very compact short package that's pretty intense. So I quite enjoy those, and as I said, the comfort collars for me, not really an issue. That's probably the biggest thing that I differ with other people on, because some other people definitely say that the comfort collars are uncomfortable along with the trains, which the trains are pretty cramped to be fair, and that the coaster is too short and the forces are not the most comfortable, which I don't really have an issue with those rides. So that is basically my thoughts on Electric Eel, and some of the reasons that I guess I am higher on it compared to the consensus. Um, Skyrocket 2s are fun, just not super satisfying. Feels like a C-list coaster. I'd probably put it more like B tier, like if I were to tier them, but that's totally fair. Um, I mean, Gale Force does look incredible, and yeah, it does look like it'd be quite a bit better, so I won't lie there, but I also think the other thing is people don't like the Skyrocket 2s probably as much as well because they're, being cloned, and you see them at a lot of places. Which for me, I don't see that as an issue, but I guess I could kind of see why others would. So I think that would also be something that factors into my ranking. But anyways, moving on to number 8, we have the Beast at Kings Island. This one is yeah, if you've followed the channel before, you know that I ranked Beast extremely high based on night rides. Like I cannot emphasize enough how much night rides elevate this coaster specifically. It's like actually crazy. This would probably not be a top 40 coaster for me during the day, and it is obviously my number 2 coaster overall based on that night ride. So I mean, that's a pretty massive discrepancy there, for sure, just in my own rankings. And then just my thoughts on it. I mean, the night ride is absolutely elite. It has an atmosphere and experience unlike any other coaster out there. It is just very dark, super long ride. The sense of speed at points, the laterals are tremendous on this coaster. Like I said, just amplified at night. The forest setting is one of the best of any coaster out there, and you can still feel that during the day. It's still like a cool setting, and I appreciated it. But at night, it's just a completely different, completely different beast. And then the tunnels as well definitely also add to that sense of speed and chaos. As well. This coaster is more of one that, like, I think it's well described that it is more of an experience because, it's not like the most dynamic coaster in terms of elements. However, that legendary double helix is truly an excellent highlight. I mean, having lateral sustain for that long is truly incredible, and especially at night, it is otherworldly. And as I've said, the ride length is tremendous. It is the longest wooden coaster of the world, so it's gonna have that on its side. And then I rode it right after the retrack, so I can't compare to how it rode previously. I know some people actually did prefer it before the retrack, but I felt that the coaster was relatively smooth and very re-rideable. Still had like a little bit of that wooden coaster bite, especially because some sections hadn't been retracked yet, which is totally cool with me. But was overall just a fantastic experience, like I said, mostly going off that night ride. Now, as far as what other people say on it, I mean, a lot of people bring up the layout. It's not particularly dynamic. It doesn't really have a ton of airtime, which is fair. It does have some dead spots and some trims that take away, is what people mention. Some say the coaster is too rough, and this may be referring to before the retrack or maybe after. So there is that. I also think there's an aspect of this where I think probably a lot of people who've ridden the Beast, the Beast, you'd have to go to Kings Island on a day where they're open late enough to where you could ride the Beast that night, and you'd have to prioritize it. So I think a lot of people who ranked it probably haven't ridden it at night, so that probably also affects the rankings. But I can still kind of understand like why this kind of experience isn't everyone's thing. So just because, like I said, from a layout standpoint, it's not really any, and just from a dynamism standpoint, it really isn't something that necessarily stands out. But like I said, that experience at night is otherworldly, and I have no issues ranking it as high as I do based on that. So that's going to be the Beast at Kings Island. Number 7 is an example of a coaster that I think is meh, but other people think it's terrible, so hence it makes this list, is Kong at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Like I said, not a great coaster, but I think it's fine. It's the only SLC I've ridden, only got one ride on it. The tracking isn't necessarily smooth. It's definitely not the best. It does take away a little bit from the inversions, but I didn't think it was unbearable. The inversions are still intense and whippy, and I thought the double inline twist and the rollover were the best inversions here. And the ride generally has like some pretty solid, like nice pacing, so there's definitely good aspects to it, even though others might disagree, at least in my experience. I will say though, I mean, just comparing this to like a B&M invert, yeah, the layout is not nearly as good, and neither is the experience. But it's, like I said, I still think it's just kind of meh, just kind of whatever. I don't think it's horrible, but I mean, this coaster is absolutely hated for being horrifically rough and apparently almost unrideable, according to some people, which, I mean, I also wrote it on a like good day or a decent day, so that also could be the case. A lot of people complain about head banging, considered by some to be one of the worst SLCs and coasters on the planet. For reference, if you look at the overall rankings of the coasters overall on Vote Coasters, this is 1,251 out of 1,467, and I didn't factor in like Captain Coaster for this thing, obviously, but I did look at it out of curiosity. This is a bottom 15 coaster on the planet, according to Captain Coaster. It ranks 1,994th out of 2,007 coasters, which, as I've mentioned, I mean, from my experience, personally, that seems really harsh, but, like I said, that is, I am definitely, since I think this coaster is just kind of whatever, that's going to have me rank it a lot higher than other people. Skywinder's trains at Six Flags America can certainly be transferred to be used on Kong. That definitely is something I could see happening, and I think that would be helpful. I think that would probably help overall, so I'd definitely be down for that. If they go that route, I think some new trains would be nice, because then you would just eliminate like any chance of headbanging, which I think would be really nice. So definitely still would be down to see that. And then maybe my ranking won't be as far off compared to other people. So there's that as well. Next, we'll move on to Furious Baco at Port Aventura. This is definitely one of my hot take coasters. This was my personal favorite coaster at Port Aventura. It's an incredible and unique hydraulic launched wing coaster. By the way, my #1 overall wing coaster, not including X2, since that's 4D coaster. Even though this is a very different style one compared to your B&Ms. But this coaster, it has a weird but fun like wine scientist with the monkey theme, where things go wrong with the wine making, which is funny. And as far as the ride itself goes, the first launch is an absolute powerhouse. I think it absolutely lines up right up there with the other hydraulic launches, as at least around there as far as power. My favorite launch in the resort too. Elite sensation of speed, thanks to staying low to the ground for pretty much the entire layout. I don't think this coaster goes like over 50 feet above the ground, something crazy like that. So definitely excels there. The inline twist is loaded with hang time, despite the fact that you're traveling through it with so much speed. It's just because of how long it is, which is awesome. That's a fantastic inversion for it being the only inversion on the ride. Not necessarily the smoothest coaster, but I didn't think the shakiness or restraints were that much of an issue comfort-wise, but I went in with the expectation that it was going to be, very noticeable to potentially, like, pretty bad, and I didn't think it was, like, that bad, or not even, like, really bad at all. Like, yeah, you could feel it shake a little bit, but I did not think it was much of an issue. It did not take away from my rides that I got on it. Now, others have definitely criticized it for being too shaky and then for having those restraints, those hard, bulky, over-the-shoulder restraints, which, if they could do the soft straps, that would be definitely something that would, I think, help. And some people have gotten head banging on this because of that. And then it does lack much in terms of elements, and it is said by some to be too short. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have the most elements, but I mean, I think that launch with the sensation of speed and that inversion is definitely more than good enough. It is a short ride, but you do get to feel that speed. really throughout the entire experience, since you just stay so low to the ground. So I do very much appreciate that. So like I said, this one is definitely out of these ones, one of those ones I would absolutely go to bat for, because I think it is an excellent and very unique coaster that you won't really be able to experience much like it anywhere else because of its setup and weird theme and everything. So there is that. Next, we'll move on to Galaxy Spin at Fun Spot America Kissimmee. Again, this is another coaster that actually I didn't realize this until I did this. Basically, another coaster that, although I actually enjoy this coaster for like what it is, I think this is the best spinning Wild Mouse I've done like pretty easily. Whereas other people seem to like really just not like this coaster at all. And that might have to, I'm curious if that does have to do with there being an accident a few years ago where a 6-year-old was thrown out of the car. However, I believe upon the investigation, it turned out that the kid stood up, which would have partially caused that. But as for my thoughts on the coaster, having ridden it, like I said, best spinning Wild Mouse coaster I've ridden. I got a crazy spinning cycle on an unbalanced car, which provided the craziest spinning I've experienced on like any spinning coaster. One of the more disorienting coaster experiences I've had as well in that second half of the layout. It also features some solid lats and a few nice airtime pops, which taken at weird orientations makes it even better. So like I said, I think it's like pretty fun spinning coaster, but other people have complained about it not spinning much, so maybe it's, you know, maybe I rode it at a good time, or they got an on-balance car because some complained about it not spinning much, being too tame. For some others, the spinning was actually too much, and some have said that the coaster was rough or uncomfortable. It has like a few jolts in spots, but I didn't think the roughness was much of an issue. Wild Mouse, the beach bend, I thought ran like way worse as far as how it tracked, and that one had like barely any spinning in my experience. So just to throw one out there for reference. So there are those things. Again, the accident, obviously not the best look for this ride, so that also could impact. But like I said, I believe the investigation yielded that the kid stood up on it, so it wasn't like necessarily the ride's fault that happened. But it, like I said, in my experience, had some pretty crazy spinning. And I do definitely appreciate getting a ride this chaotic with a spinning Wild Mouse like this. So that is why I'm higher on it. Number 4, alluded to this one earlier, is Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios Florida. This is a very odd but powerful Mauer coaster with some absolutely unhinged airtime, both in quantity and quality. Also has some really nice moments of positive G's, especially there's that turnaround toward the back leg of like kind of the first leg of it going out, where that is really intense, along with some other moments. The onboard audio and the ability to choose your song is really cool. Up to this point, I haven't ridden another coaster that has that like ability to choose your song. So that's really awesome, and I'm a sucker for onboard audio, so absolutely love that aspect of Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. I listened to Darude Sandstorm and Welcome to the Black Parade when I went. Unfortunately, I went after they made the song list changes, so that was a little bit disappointing, but still didn't impact my experience really at all. Some have said the mid-course brake runs are an issue, but I'd argue the airtime coming in and out of them is so good that the elements like that might have been there instead of the mid-course brake runs. I don't know how they would have shaped them, so it actually might be better that they're there. Just because, like I said, the airtime coming in and out of the elements is absolutely spectacular. Got some amazing night rides as well on this one. Not the smoothest coaster, but it seemed to run pretty well in my experience and was definitely re-rideable for me. The people I was with who ride Rip Ride Rocket a lot more said it was like running like very well when I was there, so definitely could have gotten lucky in terms of my rides. I will mention that. But as far as what other people say about this one, A lot of people criticize Rip Ride Rocket for being too rough or rattly to the point of not being enjoyable. Of course, those mid-course brake runs are, you know, a lot of people have gripes with them because they break up the pacing and create dead spots. But like I said, I mentioned why I don't think that's an issue. And then the lack of on-ride theming for a universal coaster. Outside of the onboard audio, you really don't have much, which compared to like their newer projects, I can understand why you could argue that as a weak point. And also like the queue isn't really themed much, so if you want to say it's subpar for that standard, that's completely fair. But like I said, that the airtime is truly magnificent, truly incredible on this coaster. Positive G's are very good. And being able to have that ability to choose your soundtrack and have a great onboard audio system, at least from my experience, definitely makes this coaster stand out. And it's why I really enjoy it, and I certainly will miss it when it gets removed here in like the next few months, or at least like when it permanently closes. So, Connexpert, are there any other coasters that let you choose a song other than this and Hollywood Dream? There might be, but I'm not sure of what they are. Those are the only two I'm aware of. So, and I'd be very curious to ride Hollywood Dream as well. Yeah, so that's going to do it for Rip Ride Rocket. My number 3 coaster, the slash is for the Omega / Alpha ratings. They actually ended up lining up like next to each other in terms of being the 3rd spot, which is fortunate, but I got Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom. I slightly prefer Omega, but honestly, I don't think there's like a super massive difference in quality. I thought my rides were a little better on Omega, so hence that's why I have it a slight bit higher. But 47 to 50 spots above consensus. This is, for me, a classic and chaotic coaster with some truly unhinged airtime pops that's made even better by being in that unconventional seating setup, where you're kind of almost in like that Matterhorn bobsled. Not quite the same, but like kind of bobsled setup, single file. You don't like just the airtime you get from that, and the restraints being like that open T-bar is sick. The theming and atmosphere is very cool, even if for me personally it doesn't quite live up to the Disneyland version, which I actually do have ranked higher in my overall rankings than the Magic Kingdom one. That being said, the sensation of speed on this coaster, despite the top speed being like what, around 30 miles per hour or whatever, is exceptional. Just being in the dark and having the wind in your face and everything. And there are some near misses and tight clearances that really enhance the experience for me. Not the smoothest coaster, but the seats are really well cushioned, so I don't really think it's much of an issue. So I personally didn't have a problem with it. Some other people criticize it for that roughness. Some say the layout has some dead spots. I mean, you're in the dark, so and a lot of it is pretty chaotic, so I don't really find that to be much of an issue. But I mean, if you ride it like a ridiculous amount of times, sure, then yeah, I could definitely see that. And some have said that the forces are overrated by some. Like some people say the airtime is unhinged, like myself, and some people would disagree. I don't know necessarily if you charted up the G for like the negative G's that Space Mountain would have like that strong of negative G's, just if you were to do it like based on the Ride Forces app, but I think the like feeling of the strength of it is amplified by the weird setup and the restraints. So that's where I would say it's unhinged, is because it's quite strong for that unique circumstance. So yeah, Space Mountain, like I said, one that I absolutely love. I was actually surprised that this ended up being like this high on the list, because I feel like I hear more praise for this one, at least on YouTube, compared to the Disneyland one, which didn't even make the list here, which I found fascinating. But I guess that just goes to show that like the consensus isn't necessarily the same as like what you see from YouTubers, which I definitely, going through this exercise, you could definitely feel that, which I mean is cool to see, I would say. So yeah, that was certainly something that was interesting. Who needs a chiropractor when you have Space Mountain Walt Disney World? You tuck into the rocket, that's funny. Um, yeah, no, but it is a really, really fun coaster, and one I hope is around for the long haul. My next coaster is probably one of the weirder ones on here, and this is Blazing Fury at Dollywood. Some would probably actually argue this isn't even a roller coaster, or don't count it as a credit. Um, but I very much enjoyed this coaster, like more than other people, just from what I could tell. My thoughts on this: this is like a charming, nostalgic indoor dark ride. It's more dark ride than coaster. Let's be clear on that. Um, but for me, that's fine. Like, I mean, that's I mean, I expected that going in. I guess maybe some other people don't, and that might be part of the problem. It is dated, but it still has like definitely a lot of charm and some solid sets with the town and firefighting. Um, and so I enjoy like it as a dark ride actually a decent bit, just without the coaster segments. But I mean, yeah, those coaster segments. This is, I guess, kind of going to spoilers, but I guess I'll just go into it because it is important to mention this. Um, it is basically just like kind of a charming, like I said, indoor dark ride that is elevated by having three really wild roller coaster drops if you are in the back row. That gives surprising pops of airtime thanks to a pretty minimalist lap bar. Again, I doubt like the actual forces are like anything that crazy, but because of the setup and of the kind of ride it is pretty wild. I especially love the first drop with the illusion. That one is, I'd say, probably my favorite of the three drops. Um, but some people criticize this one for just being outdated, feeling a bit cheap, and as far as the theming goes, like I said, it's an older dark ride, so I don't really have as much of an issue. And I mean, it's maybe for Dollywood's current standard, you would say maybe not, and Hershen's maybe not quite up to snuff, but like, you know, for like a non-Disney or Universal, I still think it's enjoyable. Um, and for it not being much of a roller coaster or having many elements, which I think that just goes back to maybe some people were expecting like a true indoor coaster, and it's really a dark ride that has a few drops. Charge says that Blazing Fury is too loud and you have hearing loss. It does have some pretty loud sections at points. I will admit that. I did not see that. I didn't see that in the reviews, but that's certainly something of note because, yeah, there are definitely parts where it does get pretty loud. So that is definitely fair to say. But yeah, Blazing Fury. It's like, don't get it twisted. This isn't like some elite coaster for me. This is in here like a my 100th coaster, which definitely puts it in line of being like, you know, a good like fun coaster that I'd want to ride anytime I go to Dollywood. But I guess other people just think it's something that is like just not really anything too special. I very much think it's a very unique, enjoyable ride. And then next we'll go into number one. If you watched last live stream, you will have already known what this is, but this is Giant Dipper at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. This is a phenomenal classic wooden coaster. It has immense charm coming from its station, to that train whistle that you hear every time it gets dispatched, to the tunnel at the beginning, the appearance of the coaster, just the color of the red going along the track is very iconic and just incredible. And then the setting of it being like right on the boardwalk up against the beach and everything, I think is also fantastic. Now, all those things are great, but this ride really delivers in terms of the forces. It really has some very powerful forces. This coaster, I would say, has the strongest laterals, like just from a point of impact of any coaster I have ridden. I mean, there's a few turns on this that are truly wild. You really just get thrown to the side. It is truly amazing. And then there's several great moments of both floater and then just straight up actual ejector airtime. The airtime this coaster delivers is, I'd say, exceptional. I think this is, honestly, of the wooden coasters I've ridden, this is one of the better ones as far as like airtime goes, especially because some of those moments are so unexpected. Like the best ejector airtime pop is very surprising. This coaster is bumpy, but it still tracks very well for its age. I don't think roughness is an issue. The only thing is, like, the seats aren't the most well padded, so the lateral moments that, like, people might not be as big of a fan of that. But still, I think as far as how it tracks, it's very well taken care of, and it's pretty good even if it's bumpy. But it's a wooden coaster, like I expect that. It also does have some incredible night rides, and I had the honor of riding it during fireworks on its 100th celebration, which was, I mean, a truly phenomenal experience. That was, I think, the best coaster experience I've had on any coaster that I've ridden in NorCal. Even though I don't quite rank Giant Dipper as my highest coaster in NorCal, because that was a pretty unusual circumstance to ride the coaster in, as fireworks don't really come around for like decades pretty much in that area. But it's still phenomenal. Definitely a coaster that I will go to bat for, and I'm happy to see that some other people who are going out there have absolutely loved Giant Dipper. Like, I know Park Pros, he had it as his #1 coaster in NorCal. Canopy Coaster, I think, has it in like his top 80 or 90 coasters. And I've heard of other people who've went and ridden and been very surprised by it. So I think it's just kind of overall, it's still slept on. But it is truly phenomenal and an absolutely incredible classic that, I mean, needs to be experienced, I think, by more enthusiasts, and then also just needs to stay around for many, many years. It's been around for over 100 years. So that is Giant Dipper. As I've said, because of the trains, some people might find this coaster to be too rough or uncomfortable. That's something that I did see people mention. I'd say that I'd attribute that probably to the lack of padding in the laterals, and more so necessarily compared to the tracking, but some people might mention that. And then the ride's overall pacing, it, like, just in terms of how it goes through the elements, it's, not like the most rapidly paced coaster ever in terms of how it holds its speed. But, I mean, this is a classic wooden coaster, and it delivers so well on the forces that I'm not really going to complain about it. So, like I said, Giant Dipper, if you are in NorCal, absolutely try to find a way to ride this, is, I think, the best way I can conclude. You will not regret it. And Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk is also just a great place to visit as well, with a lot of history and some other cool vintage attractions as well. So that's going to do it for my most underrated coasters, again, based on the Vote Coasters poll. And that'll bring us to our final Q&A and buy or sell. So any last questions, any buy or sells you have, you can ask those now, and that'll pretty much wrap up the stream. Guess I'll look through and see if there were any other comments. Black Diamond felt like a wild mouse to me during its show scenes. Feel like I count Blazing Fury due to getting evac'd, and people said the final drop is inferior to Fire in the Hole. I haven't ridden Fire in the Hole, but I would love to ride that one, especially the newer one, so that'd be cool to do. Black Diamond also looks funny, so speed of like weird dark ride coasters, so that'd be another one of note of interest. Let's see. My praise of what makes you want to get on Giant Dipper. I mean, you absolutely should. If you're, like I said, in NorCal and able to find a way to get out there, I think it's absolutely worth it. I know it's out of the way, but I think it is definitely something that should be done. Let's see. Let's see. I think the quantum accelerator was brought up earlier, but we don't. I mean, nothing's officially confirmed, but it's been getting delayed as of recently. some people are speculating that the issues with whatever is going on with the United Park straddle coasters, all of them closed around June 5th and haven't reopened since, and we don't know why. Could apply to Quantum Accelerator. We don't really know what is going on there. So some people are speculating it may have to do with that. I'm hopeful it'll still open here in like the next, few weeks. I would be pretty surprised if it's like that significant of a delay that it pushes it like really much further than that. Any agree with consensus? Yes, I also, if you have any questions about like certain coasters, because I have my spreadsheet, you just want to know where I'm at with certain coasters, I can certainly answer that. And there were some that it was literally like there was no difference. So, let's see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coasters that I was exactly aligned with consensus. Those would be Twisted Colossus at Magic Mountain, 9 overall in the rankings. Medusa Steel Coaster at Six Flags Mexico, 11 overall in the rankings. Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, 23 overall in the rankings. That one was actually kind of a surprise, because I always thought that I was higher on Joker, but I guess based on consensus, not really. Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Hollywood, both 95 in consensus. Then you have Pony Express at Knott's, 143. Woodstock Express at Kings Island, the wooden coaster, 155. And then Speedy Gonzales Hot Rod Racers at 188. So, yeah, those are the ones that were exactly aligned with consensus. Just kind of interesting that like 3 RMCs ended up being that way. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting thing to go through when I was making this. Buy or sell, Busch Gardens Williamsburg gets a mock striker. I know that was one of the things that was like on one of the earlier surveys, and that would be sick. I just would they actually do it? But it was on their survey, and I mean they did, but they also threw out like Surf Coaster, and they've thrown out a lot of other ideas. So, you know what? I'll buy it just to be like, both because for one, I think it'd be awesome to see, and then also, it is on their survey, so it is plausible. So, and it's something that perhaps they are looking at. So yeah, I'll buy it just for that. Let's see. You've been living under a rock and only learned that they even had a new coaster for 2025 through online ads. That's fair. For Six Flags New England. Let's see. Let's see. Am I? No, I'm as of right now, it's just gonna be live streams. As of right now, I have just some others. I'm trying to get a job worked out right now that has not really moved in the direction I've been wanting it to over the summer. But I'm going to be focusing on that. And then I also have my last semester at Fresno State here next semester. So I'll still be doing live streams, but videos, I mean, barring something unforeseen, I will not commit to that, because I don't think that's going to be something that's coming out in like the near future here. And I'm skipping questions a bit, but since it's related, I saw what my major was. I'm in media communications and journalism, specifically advertising / public relations option. So I also have done I've worked in marketing, which is basically like adjacent to advertising. So that is basically my major. Let's see. Actually, this is gonna be. I won't spoil yet because also it's like I have a semi-confirmed date just as long as things don't change anything. But I will be doing a stream in less than a month here with a guest, and we will be talking about one of the segments I'm hoping we're gonna be able to do is talk about the future of the Six Flags parks based on like some recent comments, specifically about those like 15 core parks that they're going to be focusing on to grow. And then talking about like what we see as those 15 core parks, and then out of the ones that aren't the 15 core parks, what could happen with them. And obviously, you know, Darien Lake would be involved there. So that's something that we'll be talking about more in a future stream, hopefully. But Darien Lake's an interesting one because it's not truly owned by Six Flags. Six Flags only operates the park. EPR Properties is the owner of it. So a little bit of an interesting situation there that will be discussed more on at a future stream. Let's see. Buy or sell. Premier Rides will introduce an inverted. My focus just went out of focus for some reason. Inverted launch thrill skyrocket like models within the next 5 to 10 years. I am going to sell on that. I mean, they have not really shown much of a interest up to this point. I mean, it could happen, but I don't really see anything that indicates they would go the route of an invert. So I'm going to sell that. I think if they were to go and do something new, like go a different route, I think I could see them trying to find some new ways to build some like family coasters, basically, before they do a throwing invert. But yeah, so I will sell that one. Your home park is Darien Lake, and you're lucky that your president is still here since he's employed by EPR instead of Six Flags. Yeah, oh yeah, because of course they moved, Six Flags moved off of all their presidents, but I mean you still have yours because they're they're not in that same situation. Yeah, that's certainly nice to have. I definitely do have significant concerns with some of the recent actions of the Six Flags chain, but I guess time will tell how much those decisions will affect Six Flags as a whole in the coming years. So that's certainly something to note. Let's see. What do I think Kings Island will get next? Well, I mean, we know they're getting whatever that family thrill or that family attraction is. I guess we're just guessing what that is. I think the fact that they didn't say it was a coaster is interesting. But it's... I gotta look up what the exact description of it was. Because it... Let's see. Kings Island 2026 ride. Does it literally just say family thrill attraction? Because that's like so vague. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. And especially if they would have listed it, although, I mean, they included the Vekoma family boomerang from Six Flags Mexico, so it's like they could literally add something that's like, you know, just kind of a small flat, I guess, and like, you know, there you go. I mean, just family thrill. For some reason, I'm thinking of Nebulas, but that feels like that'd be like a pretty minor, like small addition for them. But I think like a family flat, or maybe like a, yeah, probably like a family flat could be the route, or it could be something themed, which would certainly be interesting. But just that description is so vague. I guess it could still even be a coaster anyways, but go with, like I said, family style flat ride. And depending on what they get, that could be a very nice addition to their overall lineup. Buy or sell NBA slash NBA NFL right? No, I'm gonna absolutely sell this. For one, I mean, I don't really see. I just, because what, we have Steel Curtain. We have some rides that are like kind of close, but not actually, because like Gold Striker is like suspiciously kind of 49er like. Fury 325, Charlotte Hornets, like, I mean, there is like also kind of like suspiciously in that realm. But no, I don't see it. I don't think that's gonna be a major trend. Just that I just would be surprised, because there's gonna be probably a lot. There's like probably a lot of different things that go into doing that. And it's not like we're seeing the big chains do it, because like Palace did it, but Palace is not in the US anymore. Say we haven't seen Six Flags do it. Allegedly, Fun Spot tried to do it with Air Force One, but it didn't work. So I'm gonna say probably not. And I honestly I think I'm okay with seeing them, but I don't think it needs to become a trend. So let's see. Gerstlauer, with Gerstlauer getting into a launched invert and Intamin doing a new impulse. If you ask, wouldn't be surprised if someone tries to launch invert again. I mean, yeah, I guess that you could argue that it's like why Premiere would maybe get into the game a little bit, but I think like Gerstlauer has it. Intamin, I think, could do it if they wanted to. I mean, heck, honestly, I think I'd wonder if maybe Vekoma would attempt to try something out as well. So, I think there's a few companies that are already kind of on that. Tom Brady attraction coming into Six Flags New England. And doing rides in the players, I think especially, is less likely. Although if they were to do one, I mean, Brady would be pretty easy, just because, I mean, I mean, he's going to be obviously an icon of the sports area in New England for a ridiculously long time. So they're not going to have any issues with that. But I mean, that's not something that's going to happen. But just, and like, I guess commenting on that. What about for major coasters at Kings Island? Okay, so like, what would be like probably your question is like the next major coaster. They do need to fill out that vortex plot of land. Don't they? I've always said that like a mock launch coaster would be great for that park, and I would still love to see that. I know that we haven't really seen a mock launcher since Copperhead Strike, but hey, if Great Adventure is getting the mock spinning tower coaster, like maybe it's on the table. On the other hand, you know, with tariffs and things of that sort, maybe mock isn't necessarily a company that Six Flags is going to. And perhaps they stick to the B&M well. And if that's the case, I know there was like kind of rumors a while back that they might be interested in like a surf coaster. So I don't know, maybe throw that on the table. That is something I could see. I also think if they wanted to, actually no, I'm not gonna go that far, because no, I had something, but then I realized it would not work, so I'm not gonna throw that out there. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna probably leave it at those two as potential options for them. I think those would be some solid ones for them to potentially get. Um, you did receive something new at Frontier City, an experience in your old tumbleweed ride location. Yeah. Um, Frontier City is just kind of an interesting one in the new Six Flags fold. I'm not really sure what the future holds for it. Um, but I guess we'll have to uh, see how that develops in the next few years. How was Hollywood Nights? I did not go this year, so I don't know if you're asking somebody else. I, of course, went years ago in 2023, so 2 years ago at this point. It was, I mean, I haven't been to any other like coaster enthusiast events, but I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I wasn't, I didn't, I would talk to some people here and there, but I wasn't there as like I didn't do as much of the perhaps socializing, but I did talk with people here and there. Um, so that was cool to just see a bunch of different people that I recognize. So that and talk to some people. So that was cool. But the night rides on the coasters were exceptional. And then Holiday World is just like the hospitality they had for that event was truly incredible. The atmosphere of Voyage in the station, singing uh, the Sailaway song. I forget what it's called, which I guess is a yearly thing, but I hadn't experienced it, so that was really cool. Just the energy and the vibe of it is like unmatched. Um, Night rides, like I said, absolutely incredible. And out Voyage, you did have to wait for, probably at least in my experience, like if you wanted like the back or front row, like 20 to 30 minutes. Outside of that, you could probably get in like 15-ish minutes, 15, 20 if you just wanted a random row. Um, the other rides were pretty easy to get on though. Like I mean, at least when I went, you could uh, get either multiple rides without leaving the train on Legend and Raven, or just wait like a few trains at worst. So it was very good in that regard. Thunderbird, kind of same boat as well. Um, so yeah, it's an incredible event. It is hard to get to and get into specifically, but I'd fully recommend it. Um, for sure to eventually do at some point. I will say it is nice to see Holiday World provide other opportunities for the night rides, because I know they're doing like an event in August this year that will allow for night rides on Voyage. It won't be untrimmed, so it won't be quite as unhinged. But honestly, I think the night experience is probably a bigger deal than like a untrimmed. Like if I had to choose between riding Voyage at during the day, but it was untrimmed, versus at night, I would pick at night. So I still think that if for some reason that doesn't work, I mean, it's cool they're offering that. I think there might be like another Coaster Club event that's also happening that they might be offering night rides. I'm not sure on that one, but I know that there is another event they're doing in August that they are offering night rides. So, but Hollywood Nights is incredible. Enjoyed the food there as well. Like I said, hospitality was great. Let's see, Gold Striker and Fury are rather coincidental. Yeah, it's just kind of it's kind of funny, just how I coincidental. I mean, yeah, Gold Striker, yes, because yeah, it's 49ers related, but like San Francisco Gold Rush, like it also ties into that. Um, I don't know the Charlotte and the Hornets. I don't know, or like the like bees and such. I'd have to learn more about that, but I will take your word for it. Um, And let's see. You think Pittsburgh is just really proud of Pittsburgh things, which is why they did Steel Curtain. Yeah, I think that was probably more of a unique circumstance in that situation. I mean, there's certain cities where it literally would not even make sense to do that. Like in LA, you wouldn't like theme a coaster or a ride to like the Rams or the Chargers. Maybe one of the other sports teams, like maybe Lakers or Dodgers. But even then, it's kind of like, I don't think you'd do that. Let's see. For the Kings Island Mach Extreme Spinner or High Capacity Gearstar Infinity, I mean, I'd be down for an Extreme Spinner. But even a normal Mach launch coaster would be great. Is Six Flags going to charge separately for water parks? So, they already do for some of them. I honestly am not too in tuned to, like I have only ever been to Magic Mountains Hurricane Harbor like a few times, like over a decade ago. I don't know enough about the water parks to make a decision there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of those Six Flags parks that currently have a, with admission water park, make it like separate. But I don't think it'd be like everyone would be, so it'll probably depend on a per park basis. But I imagine we'll probably see that a little bit. But even then, I'm kind of like, I still definitely would not be the one to know if they're gonna do that or not. Holiday World auctions a Zen ride on Voyage. Do they actually? I do not recall that. That is crazy. If you're doing a Zen ride, you should do the front. Because I prefer back row, but if you're in an empty train, like I would rather do the front, because I think that I would 100%, if I got the Zen ride, I would do front row. Even though I prefer back row in general, like on an empty train, it's not gonna like run as fast, so like, you know, the airtime in the back isn't gonna be quite as good anyways, so just get the front. That's 100% what I would do. That I was not aware of. Let's see. You only have Dragster and back row on Wicked Twister because employee ERT. Nice. I mean, hey, the good ones to have, considering, you know, not around anymore. So, trying to check if I missed anything else. The songs Come Sail Away by Styx. Yep, that would be accurate. Have I ever gotten a Zen ride? By myself, like just me on my own by myself, I actually don't think so. I have gotten Zen rides where it's just me and whoever I'm with. It's actually happened like multiple times. But I don't think I've ridden a coaster where like I'm truly by myself. But I've gotten multiple Zen rides on coasters where it's just me and whomever I'm with. So, oh wait, my bad. No, well, okay, I'm being goofy. I'm being dumb. No, actually, I have gotten Zen rides. I just not on like super notable coasters. I forgot. I've gotten a Zen ride on the Wild Mouse at Beach Bend, and Galaxy Spin at Fun Spot Kissimmee. And I've gotten a Zen ride on Howler at Holiday World. Those are the only ones that come to mind as far as Zen rides go. There might be other ones too, but those are the ones that come up. As far as like just me on my own by myself, those are the ones that I can come up with. Because looking at the rest of these, let's see. So, yeah, these other ones, I'm looking at my top ones, and like none of these are Zen rides that I'm looking at. I think probably the most notable coaster that I have even any sort of Zen ride on, even though I was with my dad, is Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, because for some reason on the opening day when we went, there was a lot of confusion with the lockers, so we were the first two to ride and ended up being the only two on the train. So that was a little odd. So I guess if you want to throw that in there, that is another one. But like I said, I was with my dad. I think we got a Zen ride on Ninja. Me and Jace did, and we got a Zen ride on my local kiddie coaster, roller coaster at Blackbeard's. So outside of that, though, yeah, I'm looking at the rest. I don't think I. Oh wait, no. Okay, Mind Blower. I have. I think yeah, I think I did get a Zen ride on Mind Blower. That one was, I think, by myself. So, at least I'm pretty sure, but I also I think I did on Mind Blower. But that one I like kind of rode multiple times, and there was like some rides I think where there was a few people on it, and then other rides where there was another one where I was on my own, I think. So, yeah, I think those are probably the main ones. White Lightning I got close, but not quite. So anyways, I'm gonna stop investigating my list because I think I got through them pretty much. Let's see. Are mountain coasters considered Zen rides? I guess if you want to throw it in there, but I've never ridden a mountain coaster, so I can't even do it. Oh, by the way, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know this, but I guess I'll mention it here. This year I haven't really, traveled much. Actually, I haven't been to like an actual park yet. That'll change hopefully, like, near future, and I'm hoping to go to IAPA this year as well. But I did get my first new coaster credit of the year. Ended up going to the Merced County Fair, which is a city that's about an hour out from me. My mom's work had an event there, and so I got to ride their Wacky Worm for free. So that is my first new credit of the year. I have not really. Pretty much all I have to say on it is it ran smoother than I thought. Which is great considering it was like a super cramped train. It had like no forces besides like the one drop. Main drop had like a little bit of pull to it, and there was like the slightest little, not even actual laterals, but like feeling of almost laterals on some of the turns. So I did get my first new coaster this year. A few weeks ago, so we'll mention that. First Wacky Worm too, so and first fair coasters. So I had no fair coasters previously, so there's that. You got an Orion ride with just your party, front row during ERTN. Yeah, that sounds incredible. That is really nice. Even Raven and Legend, there was like still a few people on the train, so I didn't actually get a true Zen ride, I don't think. So, got close, but not quite. Zen ride on Dragon Mountain would be insane. I wish. Any ride on Dragon Mountain at this point would be nice. Rest in peace. It is up for sale if any park wants to buy it for $2.5 million and go through the logistical nightmare of relocating it. It's out there, but probably not going to happen, unfortunately. So, that is obviously less than ideal. And I think on that note, it looks like I've gone through all the questions. I'll just kind of scroll back through, see if there's anything I missed. And I think, yeah, I think I got through everything. So I think that is going to wrap it up here. Thanks to all of you for watching, whether you are here live or watching afterwards. And I will see you all next time here on Coaster Hour. See you all.